introduce myself to everyone else. Hello and welcome to the session Becoming Healing Circle for Black Women. I'm Rain and also a Black mental wellness mentee. I will be supporting the session today, and I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Charlotte Lewis. Um, Charlotte C. Lewis is the owner and founder of All Things Center Me, Self Love for Black Women. She is a self love coach and certified meditation practitioner who is full of enthusiasm, a motivated, people oriented professional offering over 16 years of comprehensive experience in relationship building, including corporate training experience. Charlotte is a skilled leader and communicator. After struggling with depression and anxiety for years, she found herself with low self-esteem and broken inside. A life-changing injury pushed Charlotte to embark on a journey of self-love. From this journey, she created a proven system that transformed her life. She coined this system as the Center Me Sis. With Center Me, Charlotte is on a mission to transform the lives of a Black woman by normalizing self love education, making it easily accessible and relatable. So please welcome Charlotte Lewis.
Thank you. Okay, so I figured it out, Rain. I got it. Thank you so much for the introduction. So we are going to be talking about self-love. Our intro to self-love is going to be incredible today. So like Rain said, I am a self-love coach. I'm the owner of Center Me Self-Love for Black Women, and I was inspired by my own self-love journey to really literally and figuratively speaking stop everything and really push forward uh, in trying to help other Black women expand in self-love as well. So just a little bit more about my background. As a little Black girl, I experienced a lot of trauma as a child, from sexual abuse to um, verbal, physical abuse. We moved a lot, back and forth, up and down 95. So during all of this turbulence that I experienced growing up, one of the things that I know for sure I did not learn was how to love myself. I did not learn emotional wellness. And because of that, I found myself in a lot of unfortunate circumstances and experiences in my life, one being abusive relationships. And so when it got dark enough for long enough, I had got an injury, and that injury propelled me into my self-love journey. It was then when I started to realize, how important it was to look at myself and really start to assess what it means to love me. And so I buried myself in studies. I studied self-development. I studied, spirituality, self-love, everything, and that I could get my hands on to help me in transforming my life from within and seeing what that would do and how that transformation would impact my life externally. And one of the things that I found was that since self-love has three major components, three key components, and that is your self-love environment, your self-love language, and your self-love vision. When you are in an environment that is not conducive for what is in you naturally to expand, to express, and to evolve, what we'll find is that we will wound up surviving instead of thriving. And surviving is limiting in so many different ways because we're not taking the time to learn ourselves and our true nature. And so when we are positioning ourselves in an environment that allows us to expand, to express, and to evolve, we can set ourselves up for success. We can more identify our needs. We can identify what it is that is going to help us to thrive. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go into the intro to self-love, where we're going to be talking about these three components. And I'm hoping it is my intention today to inspire you to establish a self-love journey, rejuvenate your self-love journey, and create a self-love environment for yourself, speak a self-love language, and adhere to your self-love vision. And if I have done that, I would have done exactly what I came to do today. So I'm really excited about this. Go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started. Let's see here. Got it. Okay, dokie. I'm going to, okay. All right, so let me just make sure. Okay, great. All right, so we're going to get started here. We're going to learn about how we can get our self-love on. All right. Now, let me just make sure. Okay, good. So it looks like I'm going to have to share my screen from the screen that I'm sharing. And so I will periodically come back to this screen so that I could check the chat for any questions. And we're going to be doing some activities as well. So I'm really excited about this opportunity to share this space with you. So thank you for being here. All right. So what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about what is self-love. We're going to talk about, again, your self-love environment, how to build a thriving self-love environment, how to speak a self-love language, and adhering to your self-love vision. So what does self-love mean to you? I'm going to look in the chat and I want to see you give me some ideas of what self-love means to you currently, and what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about self-love? Being gentle with myself. I like that. Respect. Ooh, yes. Deep admiration. Absolutely. Does anybody else want to share what self-love means to them? Loving me, all of me, the good and the parts that need growth. I got you. Got you. Being authentic to who I am. Acceptance. Ooh, these are some excellent answers. I love it. All right. So self-love is all of those things. Self-love is a village. Self-love is diverse. It's healing. It's self-preservation. It's authenticity. It's a luxury. It is expanding. It's top shelf. It's the standard. It's all of these things. It's presence. And so what we're going to talk about, especially and during this time, we're going to identify the many different ways that you can love yourself and learn to love yourself. And that's what we want to do at Center Me. We want to share with Black women, our sisters, the many different ways that we can learn to love ourselves, because self-love is super diverse. There's so many different ways in this process of this journey of self-love. And so that's what we're going to explore. The three key elements of self-love. So again, self-love is diverse, and the three key elements that we talked about, the self-love environment, your self-love language, and your self-love vision, they're going to make up the foundation. And we are going to review each of these. We're going to talk about the fundamentals of each of these. So I'm hoping that we have enough time to get through everything. I'm really excited about sharing everything with you all. So again, we're going to start with our self-love environment. And as I mentioned before, it is in your nature. It is natural in you to expand, to express, and to evolve. And because of this, our self-love environment has to allow space for all three of these attributes of who we are to naturally thrive. Naturally to thrive. And so when you think about what it is in you naturally to expand, that means to allow yourself to grow from the different experiences that you have in life, to express, that means to purge, to allow everything that is coming and flowing through you to have that process. So you're giving your internal experience a voice. You are journaling, you're painting, you're dancing, you're doing yoga, you're meditating, you're expressing yourself. And when you're doing that, you are creating a deeper connection with yourself. And when you're evolving, this is something that's going to happen over time. So as you continue to allow yourself to expand from all of these different experiences that you have, what you're going to see is this evolution of self. And because of this, our self-love environment has to be open. It has to have this vastness to it. And so we're going to get into more detail about what that means. But what I do is I separate our self-love environment into two parts. It's the biggest part of what I teach at Center Me. Our self-love environment has an internal space and it has an external space. So in our internal space, when we talk about a self-love environment, we want to keep it real. At Center Me, that is the method that we use to teach our clients and our community how to process our emotions. And keeping it real is going to promote your inner clarity, your self-awareness, and high-level self-regulation. So the steps to keeping it real are going to be to reflect. That is where you are going to find your truth. That is where you're going to ask yourself purpose questions. Purpose questions are questions that are going to get you closer and closer to your truth. So they're not going to sound like prevention questions where those are like, why me? Why is this happening? What did I do to deserve this? These are questions that are going to continue to keep you trapped into your past. These are going to continue to get you distracted away from your truth. And so we're not going to be able to have this progress of keeping it real and allowing our emotions to flow easily through us, because they're not supposed to stay inside of us. And as a matter of fact, our emotions have one job, and that is to teach us more about ourselves. And so when we allow our emotions to flow through us easily, we'll be able to expand by default because we're growing in who we are. So when we reflect upon our emotions, we're asking ourselves purpose questions, purpose questions like, how much stimulation did it take for me to get here? Why did this trigger me the way that it did? Is this the only emotion that I'm feeling? Are there any other emotions that are accompanying this particular feeling? Really exploring yourself. It's like the reflection process is more like an investigation. So you are really trying to get closer and closer to what you really feel in your truth, and being really comfortable in that and trusting yourself with that. When we get to the point of expressing these emotions, again, this is a purging process. So there's so many different ways that you can express yourself, literally from crying to drawing and journaling, to even just talking it out with your therapist or your coach, and having this ability to trust yourself with these emotions to allow them to flow through you. When we express ourselves and giving our internal experience a voice, there's a magical thing that happens in that. One, we are going to learn how to trust ourselves with ourselves. And that's really key, because when we learn how to trust ourselves with ourselves, then we're going to encourage the behavior of allowing our emotions to flow through us and expanding from them, because we're going to be extracting this value of what they came to teach us about ourselves when we're paying attention, when we're being aware of ourselves. And then two, when you are learning to trust yourself with these emotions by expressing them, you are promoting this inner clarity you are making this transformation. So if something was to come to you as anger, it flowed through you as this journal entry. And so you get to see how powerful you are, because now you are taking this energy, these emotions, this energy, and you're using it for your greatest good, to learn more about yourself, to expand, to express, and to evolve. And when we move to the next step of accepting, acceptance is probably one of the most difficult, probably the most difficult part of the Keep It Real process, because we have to bring ourselves to accepting, one, the temporary nature of things, and two, we have to accept things for what they are, when they are, where they are, how they are. And that's including ourselves, because the last thing that we want to bring ourselves to accept is responsibility for ourselves. And when I say responsibility, I don't mean it in a way where I'm talking about, you know, feeding yourself and clothing yourself and keeping a roof over your head, but really being responsible, as in, how are we responding to ourselves? When you can take responsibility for your healing, what does that look like? What is being responsible to you, for you, your emotions, your experiences, your feelings? How are you responding to them? How are you responding to your needs? How are you responding to your emotions? How are you responding to these experiences that are flowing through you? And so when you're able to accept that responsibility in its entirety, then you begin to see yourself as this whole, complete being that is perfect the way it is. And it's going to bring you to a seamless transition into the last step of keeping it real, which is letting go. And this is an act of self-love in itself, because again, when we accept that everything is temporary, this keeps us from trying to hold on to things like our past, hold on to things like, the mistakes that we've made, or the decisions that we've made, the experiences that have flown, that have traveled through us, journeyed through us. And so when we're able to bring ourselves to letting go and really just accepting that everything is temporary, then we're creating more space within ourselves. So our internal self-love environment is going to become this vessel, if you will, of this ever flowing energy that's taking place, where you are constantly expressing, you are evolving, and you are expanding, because you're keeping it real with yourself. I can't stress how important it is for us to make sure that, if not anyone else in our lives, we are making sure that we are keeping it real with ourselves. And so we have a whole entire workshop on keeping it real. So I just wanted to make sure that I did go through it briefly, to talk about what it looks like to have an internal environment where we are regulating ourselves on a higher level by processing our emotions, really taking this process of responding to another level, because instead of reacting, we're slowing down this time between being triggered and responding, and we are improving our awareness, our self-awareness, because we are observing ourselves in these emotional states, and we're taking the time to learn more about ourselves by keeping it real and reflecting, doing this investigation, expressing, trusting ourselves with what we're feeling, accepting, and accepting that everything is temporary, accepting that we are whole and complete as we are, accepting responsibility for ourselves, and then letting go, being able to give ourselves that grace, show ourselves that love of not carrying around baggage, not carrying around our past, not carrying around our decisions, but just being able to let go and understand that every breath that we take is bliss. So before I move forward and how this process promotes a healthy and thriving internal self-love environment, what else? Do you have any questions about the Keep It Real process? I'm on the screen where I can see the chat now. Self-love means giving myself grace, being kind, treating myself like independent, listening to myself, and giving myself permission to be awesome. I love that. Oh, yes, reacting and responding. There's definitely a difference, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about that too. All right, so we're going to just, again, this process is going to encourage expansion because we're taking the time to learn more about ourselves. This is going to encourage expression because we're trusting ourselves with our emotions by giving them a voice. And it's going to also encourage evolution because we are consistently growing in the mastery of ourselves. Again, expanding is something that we're going to attempt to find ourselves doing on a daily basis. So we're learning more about how we respond to different emotions like anger, fear, love, joy. And we're also going to improve our self-awareness. And so as the time goes by, the way that we respond to ourselves is going to become a lot more polished because we're growing in this self-mastery. And so we're evolving. So the person that you were last year is going to be completely different from the person you are this year. And I anticipate that the person you are next year is going to be completely different as well. We're going to continue to grow in learning more about who we are, what our needs are, and how to best love ourselves.
There's a question in the chat. They
Okay.
said, "What do you do when doubt shows up in keeping it real?"
So that's a great question. When we are experiencing doubt and keeping it real, what section, what part would you, let me ask you this. When you say doubt shows up and keep it real, doubt in the reflection process, expressing, accepting, letting go, is there a particular space that you would that you see doubt showing up at? Or just in general, all of all of them? So here's what I would say to that. It is normal for us to be scared or fearful of something that we're not familiar with. Sometimes when we are exploring ourselves, it's very new for a lot of us because emotional wellness is not something that is, regularly taught. And so if you are experiencing doubt in this process of allowing yourself to keep it real and process your emotions, know that this doubt is creeping up as a response from a version of you that is fearful of what you may find. But observing that and being the greater awareness of that is what is going to continue to push you forward through this process. So when you're experiencing doubt, this may be a response, like I said, to like from a version of you that has experienced trauma, or a protector persona, a version of you that likes everything as it is and doesn't want to dig deep, doesn't want to experience any difficult emotions, and is very hesitant to this process. But you have to remain as the greater awareness in this process and say, you know what? Okay, if I'm feeling this doubt, if I'm feeling this fear of keeping it real with myself and allowing myself to process these emotions, that's normal because this is new. But I understand that I'm going to continue to grow and expand as I keep it real with myself. I'm going to become a greater communicator. I'm going to improve my communication skills, not only with other people, but with myself. Because now I'm getting an insight. I'm familiarizing myself with insight. And so recognize the fear, embrace it, because it's normal and it's you. It's you. And so in the last session, when Dr. Walker was talking about being able to push yourself past that fear, that's when you see expansion happen. So I say embrace the fact that you're experiencing the doubt. That's normal. That's just, a response from a version of you that is fearful of this process because it's new. But push yourself through that, because on the other side of that fear is you. It's more of you. It is you growing into learning more about who you are and expanding and evolving in what is natural in you to do. I hope that answers your question. So the three qualities, the three natural qualities I just said are to expand, to doing what removes the blame. And I love that. Yes, 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 yes. Absolutely, sis. So the three qualities that are natural in you are to expand, to express, and to evolve. Remember that. Always keep that in your consciousness, because anytime that you feel paralyzed by fear, anytime that you feel stuck, tap into what is natural in you. Tap into your natural ability to express yourself. Embrace it, express it. Tap into your natural ability to expand from that. Learn how can I expand from this? What can I learn more about myself? How can I learn more about myself from this experience? And then look forward to the evolution, because that's going to happen as a default as you continue to learn more about yourself. How do we maintain clarity in our internal self-love environment? We keep it real. We keep it real. We are reflecting, we are expressing, we are accepting, and we're letting go. We're letting go. And so one of the things that I do when I have my workshop in person, my Keep It Real workshop, is I always identify the attachment that we have to our cell phones. And it's like, what are you going to do if you lose this phone? And I've gotten answers like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so worried. I'm going to be so stressed. I'm going to lose my mind. Like all these different emotions and feelings just from losing a cell phone. And what I like to bring to their attention is that your body doesn't know that you're actually not in danger, that nothing is a threat around you. Your life is perfectly fine. You just lost your phone. But because your body doesn't know that, you're going to send yourself through this stress response where your, cortisol levels are going to increase. And so now you're existing in a state of stress and, even fight or flight because of the attachment that we have to the phone. The phone can be replaced and everything in the phone can be replaced. But when we accept the temporary nature of things, we accept that everything is temporary, we start to release that attachment. And that's why it naturally gives us the ability to let go. And so we are improving so many different areas of our lives by just learning to keep it real. And part of that, like I said, the benefit of that is that internal clarity, that ability to maintain calmness and awareness in situations of stress, being able to release attachment to things, and especially when we consider something mine, we create this attachment that almost seems kind of permanent, and that can be unhealthy for so many reasons, because whenever we think something is mine, we feel like until we're done with it, it has to stay with us. It has to be around or at our beck and call. And so whenever we lose it, we send ourselves into this, stressful state when we don't really have to, because everything is temporary anyway. So being able to keep it real is going to really help to maintain that inner clarity. So our external self-love environment. So again, we're just going to be going over the fundamentals of each of these key self-love elements. And so we talked about one way that we can improve internal clarity of our self-love environment, which is by keeping it real, maintaining, that emotional wellness by processing our emotions. Going into the external self-love environment, this is going to include 5 cornerstones, which are going to include your relationships, your hobbies, your job, business, or career, your routine, and your living space. Now, in our self love environment, the external self love environment, these 5 cornerstones are going to require balance. And what that would look like in relationships that surround you are relationships that are going to give as much as they receive. So we're going to see healthy and supportive relationships in our self love environment. And I was asked a question a couple weeks ago about having relationships with family, healthy relationships with family, and how we oftentimes give family a pass because they're family. Well, in a self love environment, relationships, whether family, friends, colleagues, all of these relationships must be healthy and supportive. Otherwise, they're putting your self love environment at risk. And we have to accept that because we didn't choose our family. We didn't choose our relatives. I'll say that. And so it's up to us to make sure that if we're wanting to exist in an environment that is healthy and that we can thrive in, that we are surrounding ourselves with relationships that are healthy and supportive. And so we want to see balance in these relationships in that way. Our hobbies are very critical because if we get too wrapped up in our job, business, or career, we're going to cause this imbalance. If we have a routine that is not going to give us space for hobbies and our, interest and leisure, then we're going to see how this imbalance will impact our living space. So we are not going to see a living space that says that love dwells here. We're going to see uh, clutter, disorganization. And so when we make time for our hobbies, we're also giving our relationships a break too. So this is the time where you're actually giving yourself this space for pure creativity and enjoyment. And so this is something that you can do with yourself. This is something you can do with your friends. This is something that you can do with your children, but or with family. But you want to make sure that you're making time for your hobbies, because your hobbies are going to help sustain that balance in your external self-love environment. And so again, balance is just going to be the key here in our job, business, or career. We want to make sure that we're seeing balance there and that we are not bringing work home with us. I know that can be hard. That can be difficult, especially if you're a business owner. But we want to make sure that we're drawing some really hard stopping points with our work because rest is just as productive as the work. And that's what's going to actually help the work come out better as long as we're making that time for the rest. And our routine is, like I said, it's going to have to be something that gives just as more than it takes. So we need to be able to carve out a routine for ourselves where we're seeing balance in everything that we're doing. We're making the time for our relationships, to nurture and promote wellness and support and healthiness in our relationships, whether it be with our children, our spouse, our just our tribe in general. And we'll talk more about our tribe later on. And in our living space, for me, like I said before, I suffered from depression for a very long time. And one of the things that I noticed changed dramatically as I started to do the inner work and the, healing inside, I saw my living space begin to transform. So before, there's nothing on the walls. There oftentimes it was clutter, oftentimes it was, mess. And so I started to see, cleanliness, organization arise, pictures up on the walls. My children's paintings are everywhere. I have plant babies all over the place. I love plants, but you'll start to see your living space come alive again. This is a space, your living space is one of the spaces that you want to be the most connected with, because it's going to give you more insight on what's going on inside. Because our internal environment is always going to be reflected in our external environment. And so it's very important that our living space, we keep very, very conscious of what's going on in our living space. Oops. So let me see. Let me go back. So again, when we talked about our external environment, self-love environment, I said that balance is something that we definitely want to strive for. In order to maintain that balance, though, we have to be very conscious of our boundaries. And I think I saw something earlier in the chat about that. But our boundaries are essential for both a thriving internal and external self love environment. They're going to do three things for us. They're going to preserve your energy, they're going to encourage self accountability, they're going to help us to define the expected and accepted behavior in our self love environment. And so our boundaries are super, super, super important in order to see this self love environment that we're building for ourselves thrive and us thrive in it. And so I know that this could be something difficult, especially for the recovering people pleasers out there, i.e. And so boundaries was something that I had to learn, not just to help give myself more confidence in maintaining a self-love environment that I could expand, express, and evolve in, but it also helped me to build more trust with myself. You're going to hear me say this a lot. The reason why trusting yourself is so important, because when you start beginning to trust yourself on this level, then that's when you really start to see yourself pushing your boundaries, pushing your or challenging the fear that is presented in your life, really challenging these difficult situations and coming out on top. You're going to start to see this natural drive for success and motivation for success when you are enforcing and maintaining your boundaries. Again, our boundaries are not to keep people out, but really to help us curate an environment for ourselves where we are seeing these healthy and supportive relationships, where we are seeing time for our hobbies, where we are seeing, a job, business, or career that is in alignment with our natural gifts and talents, where we are seeing our routine that is very, very balanced, because we're drawing those hard lines where we're not bringing work home, but we're making sure that we are making that time for rest, and making that time for inner work. We're making time for self. We're making time for grounding. And we are going to also see our living space come alive. We're going to see something where when you walk into my space, it's going to feel sacred, because I'm maintaining these boundaries, and I'm maintaining the energy that's coming in this space that is very near and dear to me. So our boundaries are very, very, very important. Let me go the other way. Now, because our boundaries are often confused with conditions or limitations, we're going to play a game to help us determine if is it a boundary. Now, before we get started, conditions, let me ask if anyone is familiar with, I'm coming back to the screen where I can see the chat now. What do you think a condition is? We're talking about boundaries. What do you think a condition or a limitation is, and what that would look like? Thank you, Denisha. Oh man, you guys, I only have 5 minutes left. Only have 5 minutes left, and we haven't even gotten to the other two elements of self-love yet. So let me just say this: conditions are going to be what we try to do to keep people to have people do what we want them to do. So a condition would be something where I would say, well, if you do this, then I'll give you my love. Or if I do this, then I know I'll receive their love. So it's a condition instead of a boundary. A limitation is a direct, cutoff. Like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. That's not me. I have to be for this person, or I have to be able to put this person before my needs and things of that nature. And so those are what conditions and limitations look like. So um we only have one more minute, but this is what a condition would look like. I give respect when I receive it. So whenever we position ourselves to lose that accountability for self, then we know now that that's not a boundary. Our boundaries are going to, again, give us that self accountability. They're going to encourage the preservation of our energy, and they're going to help us to define the expected and accepted behavior in our self-love environment. But oh gosh, I wish I had more time. I didn't know that I wasn't going to have enough time. Yeah. Just getting into this. Yes, I do provide virtual coaching sessions. Make sure you guys visit centerme.com, SENTERME.com. We have classes every single month. We have sister circles every month. We get together in our community to share all of this information in such great detail. I tried to get as much in as I could today. But I'm so thorough, and I knew it was going to go over. So I am so sorry that we got cut off, but I do hope to see you all soon over at centerme.com so that we can continue to re-educate in self-love for Black women, because we believe that self-love is going to help you in improving your emotional wellness. And when we improve our emotional wellness, we start to see real transformation happen in our lives as Black women. So thank you so much for sharing this space with me. And I really hope to see you again over at centerme.com. I think this is it though, you guys. And so I hope to see you around.